is going to be a very exciting session. All right, so welcome everybody to another exciting guest speaker session from the Execution Lab. For those who don't know us, the Execution Lab is the place where we help business owners build and scale Lincoln-first businesses. As part of what we do, we host these guest speaker sessions because we believe that the best way to learn something is by doing it, experiencing it, and the second best is by hearing someone that already has. In this case, we have Lucy today. I met her in one of her presentations a few years ago, and I was really hit by her story. And I was like, oh my God, she's like doing a lot of things. And recently we reconnected, and she's actually done way more things. So I'm super excited to hear about that. Lucy has joined a few of under 25 and under 30 lists. So I suggest you guys check out her profile. So yeah, without further ado, welcome, Lucy. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to be here and great to be reconnected. I also put my LinkedIn profile in the chat. Would love to connect with you all. And yeah, just great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I will ping yourself for myself only here. There you go. So yeah, so you've built already 5 companies.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more, a little bit about that, so they have kind of an introduction.
Yeah, so I've my bread and butter is in the impact entrepreneurship space. So my first company launched 12 years ago. We helped restaurants reduce waste and save money. We did that through providing sustainability consulting services. That was born through the fact that I was working at the time in my undergrad in restaurants, paying my way through university while I was studying environmental science. And I was very frustrated with the amount of waste I saw every day. And I thought, okay, well, I can be the annoying server running around and telling everyone to do better, which is not going to create systematic change. I'll do it, but I would rather create systematic change. So that kind of accidentally turned into my first company. I didn't mean to become an entrepreneur. It just happened. And yeah, and that was called Terrace. We were the first company of its kind in Canada, just as a bit of a happy accident. We helped open theaters, restaurants. I honestly think we were too early for the market. We were implementing something that worked really well in Europe, and Canada, Canada just wasn't ready for it. I would say we were about 5 years too early, and I ended up closing that company down. I still did projects on the side. I had a catering business for a period of time, which was scaling and doing well, but that was a side hustle that was just going really well, like better than we expected, that I ran with my partner who's a chef. And both of us went, okay, well, this is great, but we didn't really want to become full-time caterers. But like we had some pretty big clients, which was great. And then I had a dog treat business as well. So we took food usually discarded and upcycled it into healthy natural dog treats. We did that because I still really wanted to do work in the food waste space, looking at, okay, let's create systematic change and utilize business as kind of a protest, like, hey, everyone do better, and here's how you do better. So because at the time, 47, and I would need to double check this statistic now, but 47% of food waste in the food supply chain in Canada was coming from the manufacturing and production stage. So that's second harvest data. And that was the biggest segment of food waste. It's not coming from consumers. It is coming from manufacturing and production. And so we went right to that with regards to building a supply chain for the pet food industry. And so we took pulp left over from juice production, and we upcycled that into dog treats. Is perfectly good. And at the time, and still is the case, juice companies, they are paying for waste haulage to throw this perfectly good product out. And we created a new revenue stream for them. So they're saving money and they're being given a new revenue stream completely. So that company, it did grow. We were in over 50 stores and counting. And we launched right before the pandemic hit. So brutal time to launch a food business a couple months before the pandemic hit, especially when you're building innovative supply chains that haven't been done in Canada in this way. Again, it's a happy accident. We became first company of its kind in Canada again, which comes with it its own challenges. And that company, we were actually in the process of launching our sister brand Earth Cat, as well as a completely new product line when I ended up getting really, really sick with toxic mold illness. So I was exposed to black mold and got extremely ill for about a year and a half. So I was actually forced to close that company down or pause it. I mean, there still is a world where that company comes back. But I just didn't have another choice because I was very, very ill, and it took about a year and a half to get better. And when I did get better, I thought, okay, well, this is about the time where food waste is becoming a bigger and bigger topic. And so when I was coming back into the space, like Nestle's now doing it, they're doing the whole upcycling thing, and which is great. That's what we wanted. I mean, I started EarthPup to first and foremost look at how do we create systematic change, and dog treats was the vehicle we were doing that through. So when I came back to it, and a lot of it, and it's becoming more normalized and bigger companies are doing it, I thought, okay, well, that's great. That's what we wanted to see happen. So do I go back to it where now food waste isn't the special thing anymore because it's more normalized, which is a positive thing from an environmental perspective. From a marketing and innovation perspective, we're not special anymore. And
Right.
so, and I, at the time, I also, I did some advisory with the United Nations on their circular economy, digitization for circular economy council. And we were talking all about the same thing. Like, no one's buying products because they're sustainable. It's a bonus that people are looking for, but it's not the main reason people are putting money into it. And so when I got better, I thought, okay, well, I could bring EarthPup back, and we had a really innovative, super cool new product line that was coming out that has not been done internationally, that we co-developed with a herbalist veterinarian. And I was really excited about it, but I thought, okay, if we bring it back, I'm back to being a CPG founder, and which, I mean, for anyone is anyone here doing CPG?
Yes.
I don't know if anyone is. Okay.
Guys. Yeah. You can explain.
But I thought, okay, well, if food waste isn't the special thing anymore and we're just a dog treat business, I love creating innovative businesses that are creating impact. And I kind of realized, all right, well, we'll be a dog treat business, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I fell in love with leadership development, and I thought I would rather focus on leadership development for leaders who are doing really innovative, pioneering stuff. And I think I will be able to create a bigger impact that way, especially now that everyone's doing the food waste thing. So I still do some work in that space, but now what I do is, because I'm like kind of finishing up my intro, while I was building EarthPup, I was also running accelerators and incubators internationally. So I did a clean tech incubator and accelerator in the Western Balkans across 5 different countries, which was so interesting. And I did a bit of work with plastic waste reduction startups in the Philippines. I used to manage a program it was at Spring Activator, called the Impact Startup Visa Program. So we helped immigrants bring their company to Canada. And yeah, through that, I honestly fell in love with leadership development. And now what I do is, I have 2 companies currently. One is Lumen Onyx. So that is where we do leadership advisory and executive coaching. So we help leaders unlock their own momentum and trajectory to achieving their goals. And so that's where I do my private client coaching currently. And then I also now run a company called Comeback Catalyst, which I thought was going to start as a little pilot, and then it blew up in a really positive way. But it is Canada's first incubator for justice impacted entrepreneurs. So we help people out of prison launch their own business, because the average income for formerly incarcerated individuals in Canada is $14,000. So that is what I do currently. It is very much in the leadership and helping people achieve their goals who are business leaders. And in Comeback Catalyst, we had 1,300 applications in our first year. So, and we just started cohort number 5 this week, actually 2 days ago. So Yeah. And my hobby is I play sax.
Okay.
That's about me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you played sax. Yeah, this is wow. This is amazing. So from the 5 companies you started, 2 of them are currently active, right? And 3 of them were the first in Canada, like the first of the type in Canada, right?
Yeah, I would say 2 of them. I mean, one of them was just a catering company, kind of like not doing
Yeah.
anything particularly special, but that was honestly just born out of my partner and I just thinking. We started having people asking us because we met because we worked in the same restaurant. So we knew what to do. I worked in events for a really long time when I was in university. And
Mhm.
we had just people saying, hey, will you cater our event? We're like, sure. And then it just grew. We didn't have a website or anything. It was just
Yeah.
purely referrals. And then it started to get almost too much. So yeah, the catering company wasn't anything particularly special, but 2 of them, Terrace and Earth Pup, were first of their kind, which I didn't know when I was doing it. I just kind of looked around and went, oh, no one's doing this. And Comeback Catalyst ended up doing the same thing. The company, the nonprofit I run currently, same exact thing happened. We went, there's an opportunity here. Someone should be doing this. I don't know why no one's doing it. And then the more we looked at it, we realized, wow, really no one's doing this in Canada. And it became another first.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually want to ask you about that. So you started 5 different companies, and you seem to have like a very strong criteria for each of those companies. So what was your what told you, hey, this is big enough, or this is important enough, or this is my criteria to start a business, not just do something, but call it a business? What's your criteria to start a business?
I think, well, it's funny. I've actually given myself a rule that I'm not allowed to start any new companies for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
A self-imposed rule, because being the first one to do it is, I mean, it's so hard when you don't have a blueprint to follow. You're just making stuff up and being like, okay, I think this is the way to do it. And that's a whole other conversation about if I was going to do another first of their kind, like what would I do? Because I do think there's a blueprint to follow that I've now realized having done it. But I think like for me deciding, okay, there's a business opportunity here, it's always a question of, okay, is there a demand? Is there a demand? Is there a need? What is the problem that we are solving? Because I think as entrepreneurs, and I certainly found this in the early days of my first company, I was like, but this is what I want. This is what I want. So therefore the market's going to want it. Right. And I think that is something that's certainly not done intentionally, but it can be a trap that certainly new founders can fall into. Is it like you kind of absolutely make it all about yourself? Like, I want this, so everyone will want it. And it's not necessarily like there's no ill intent there. But if I'm going to be looking at a new business opportunity, now it's not about me. So what does the market want? What does the market want? And are they going to pay for it? Because it's like, I remember when I was starting like with Terrace, we were first people in Canada to do it, which comes with its own challenges. But like we were doing meet for Terrace, I was the sustainability consulting company. I mean, we had people who wanted our help, but didn't want to pay us for it. And so that's a really important distinction, especially if you're doing something in like the impact space. Like the analogy I like to think of as being like a plumber, right? Like a plumber in a restaurant, if you have a pipe burst, you are finding money to get that pipe fixed. And sustainability consulting, what we were doing, we're helping people save money and make more money through waste reduction. But that didn't always translate to, oh my gosh, this is a problem I need to solve yesterday. Send me an invoice. And that's a really important thing to be aware of is, does the market want it? And are they willing to pay for it?
Right.
And I think that's the number one thing that we need to be looking for any business.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and my follow-up question is like, what is the point where you say, okay, this is just not like a side hustle, like this is a company? And what I guess you already, you are in your 5th company. So do you have kind of a playbook, like, this is my initial validation, yes, there is some market demand. Yes, people are willing to pay for. So this is what I'm gonna do next. Do you have something like that, or?
That's a good question, and I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat. Yeah, Ryan, it's interesting that is quite common, that could be a reason a lot of companies end up closing down. So yeah, I'm glad it's resonating with a couple folks here. I think a lot of us have been there. And I think I'm going to challenge actually what you said a little bit. I think side hustles can be companies. And I think that there's lots of ways to be an entrepreneur. And there is, because we certainly see that in Comeback Catalyst, right? Like that's the incubator for justice impacted entrepreneurs. We've now had 137 people graduate in under a year from that program. And that program exists to solve the problem that these business leaders are living below the poverty line in Canada. If they start a side hustle that's got branding, that's got paid customers, that's registered, even if they say, hey, I just want to run this on the weekends, and that works really well for me because it brings me in some additional income while I also work this other job that I'm really happy in, that also brings me the income I want. That's a business in my books. We define a company launching as getting your first customer. I Comeback Catalyst anyways. So I think at the end of the day, I think it really depends on what the goals are of the leader, because I think we often feel like, I certainly think that this exists in the ecosystem anyway. Sometimes, well, I need to be hitting milestones like I'm seeing on LinkedIn and like, or on Instagram, right? Which are different types of posts, I think, between the two when it comes to business growth. Like we hit 1 million in revenue this year, or we just did a raise. And I think that also there's so much value and importance in determining, okay, what do I actually want for myself and for my business here?
Right.
Like, right. And that might not be a $1 million revenue milestone. And that's totally fine, because with that comes a $1 million infrastructure and probably raising capital. And it's, the last things I'll touch on there. I remember talking to a founder in the dog treat industry. And this is where I think like determining what does success look like for me is so important. So we're not chasing the other ideas of success that we see either in the ecosystem or online. But I remember having a conversation with someone who had a dog treat business. She was hitting 11 million in revenue a year. And she said, Lucy, I will never be profitable. And I went, what? That doesn't make any sense. You're doing 11 million. And it was because of the play she's doing, because of the investors. They want fast growth. And so they're just constantly raising money. And for her, success with that business was, we want to exit to a VC. That's when she gets her, what I kind of call your beach moment. Like you get your payout, you get, I did it. I get my beach moment, right? And that's what success looked like for her. For me personally, I don't think I'd feel comfortable doing a fast growth business, doing 11 million in revenue with the infrastructure that needs and the pressure that comes with constantly raising capital, betting on the fact I'm going to sell it to a VC.
Yeah.
Because that could work and that could be great, or it could not. And I think like, even when I look at the work that I'm doing now across both companies, success in each of those companies looks so different. And that's where I just think there's a lot of value in determining what is the player doing? Is it having a strong profit margin business that maybe you don't exit, but you just run with really strong profit margins with sustainable growth? Or is it fast growth, like fail fast, like kind of the tech play? So I think that's when there's a lot of value in determining what that is for yourself, because success can look like lots of different things.
Yeah, and the play is so different. So have you raised financing for any of your companies?
Yeah, I mean, most of it I've bootstrapped. I'm currently fundraising for Comeback Catalyst. We're aiming. I just had an event on Monday night, and we're a nonprofit. I think that's important to note. But we might become a charity. I don't know. There's a lot that comes with that. That like might actually hinder our ability to move fast, because I like to say we move like a tech company, but we are a nonprofit. But we're right now we're raising a minimum of 1.5 million. I thought that was going to be over the next 3 years. Our advisory committee wants to see a 1.5 million budget per year. So that'd be 4.5 over the next 3 years. So that's actually what brings me to Web Summit in Vancouver. So, but we've raised a total to date of 680,000. And we launched last year. So yeah, I've done that. I've probably raised across all my ventures just over $1 million, but I wasn't doing, I was bootstrapping it all as much as I could. So yeah, and I don't think I'll raise significant capital in Luminonics. We might do a tech play. If we do, I would, but it's not on my radar.
Yeah. I feel I have so many questions and so little time. But one of the questions that I have is, especially going to the Web Summit, we also had Vancouver Startup Week a few weeks ago here, and most of the events, Luma and Eventbrite, like everything is around AI. So, and something that I've seen is that a lot of founders see, the power of AI and how fast you can build a product and quote unquote and company around it. So what is your take about AI, and how much do you use it in your companies?
That's a good question. I think I'm still learning, because for Comeback, for Luminonics, I'm using tools like I think any other founder is. And I'm right now looking at what are workflows that we can set up in Luminonics to better serve our clients. So that's something that we're currently looking at as we relaunch, because Luminonics, if anyone looks it up, we don't even have our website up yet. And we're almost at capacity actually for private clients, which is incredible. And right now working on pilots that we can be, actually, I'll say this, because this is one thing that I think we're going to probably tap into AI for. But right now we're developing a coaching framework, the Luminonics coaching framework. So Lumen being your vision and your clarity and your strategy, everything in the mind, and Onyx being your depth and capacity to hold it. Because it's now had the privilege of guiding, mentoring, teaching well over 350 entrepreneurs now, and it's all the same patterns. And it's like fear of judgment, fear of failure, perfectionism. There's so often I can give someone a suggestion to run with, and there could be something holding them back from actually running with it. And so the framework is helping leaders unlock their potential and get trajectory and momentum in what they're going after and hitting their goals. And so finishing that, we've had 3 companies go through the assessment, and I'm developing it with a psychotherapist, and we are creating pilots so that folks would go through the assessment, they would see where they would rate on their Lumen and their Onyx, be put into 4 different archetypes, and then get an action plan that's going to best support them in achieving their goals. I might tap into AI for that assessment framework. Also, if anyone wants to be part of our piloting, please shoot me a note. Right now, we're lining up companies that we're going to be piloting with. We're exploring opportunities with Google, which is really exciting. And for Comeback Catalyst, it's a similar thing. Right now we're using those tools similarly to I think a lot of other companies are. Note takers, looking at automated workflows, etc. I'm figuring out the best way to harness it, because it's a bit of a, like with regards to education, it's a bit of a tricky balance where I want to be best supporting the founders that we're working with, but I am also hesitant. This is purely from an educational perspective. I'm hesitant to be encouraging them to be using AI for everything, because I don't want them just prompting ChatGPT and spitting out a business plan without using their critical thinking skills first. So that is something that I honestly have talked to my parents about too. They're both college teachers. So I think the biggest way that we're looking at AI within the company is from an educational standpoint, where we can look at, okay, well, how are we best setting up clients and participants for success without encouraging them to be so heavily reliant on AI that they're not using their own critical thinking skills. And then when they're running their business day to day, they're just prompting ChatGPT for every possible decision, because ChatGPT is the thing that spat out all of their strategies without them doing it themselves. So I think I'm finding a bit of the balance there. I'm not discouraging use, but I also don't want everything to come from AI from the founder.
Yeah. Sounds makes sense. You don't want AI to. You don't want to ask AI if you should fire a person or something like that. You should really have your criteria. I actually have a question from your introduction. You mentioned that you had to close your first company. So closing a company, it's something that it's a complicated decision for any founder. So how was that decision for you, and what told you, okay, this is it, like I have to close?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like it got to I had a really messy co-founder breakup with that first business. And so there was that. And I took over ownership of the company. We're on great terms now, by the way. So yay. But that was a really tough go. It really felt like a divorce. And not that I've been through divorce, but that's the only thing I was like, this must be what it's like. So yeah, I think like I actually remember where I was when I made the decision. I remember, is anyone here in Toronto? You can just raise your hand if anyone's in Toronto. No one's in Toronto. Okay, so there is a jazz club in Toronto. I remember I was with my mom seeing some music, and I remember thinking, okay, like I got Terrace, which I now own, but it's still this uphill battle of trying to educate people. And this is going to what we were saying earlier, like what defines a good business idea to run with? Is the market willing to pay for it? And we were still too early, and I was like pulling my hair out because I was talking to all of these. We did have paying clients, but it wasn't enough. It was such an uphill battle. And I remember we still had all these chefs being like, I love this. We're so frustrated with all the food waste that we see. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is a budget. This is how much we think we can save you. Here's your ROI. And it was just constantly like, oh yeah, no, we'll think about it. Because it wasn't the like the pipe that's burst in the restaurant in a very slim profit margin business. So it was getting to the point where I was like, I don't know if this is going to work the way that I need it to work. Because I don't think the market is ready for it. And I really realized that when I was at this jazz club and I was looking at the other opportunities that I had, where I did learn through that process, oh, I love entrepreneurship. And I kind of I think that there's a fine line between pushing through the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur, but also coming to terms with the fact of, hey, I actually think that this is not the time to do this. And I'm okay with that and putting my ego aside. And I was looking at a story from the founder of Coachella, who like, he really stuck through it. And so, like, even if you just Google his story, like I think he lost his marriage over the early days of Coachella, if I remember correctly. And that may or may not have happened with Terrace. Like maybe if I did stick through, we could have really pushed through at the other side. But by that point, I'd put a couple years into it. And I thought to myself, okay, I've learned so much. I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it with something else. And put my ego aside, just be okay with the fact that that doesn't mean it's a failure necessarily. Because we had paying clients and we opened some really cool stuff. And it felt I think if we get into the mindset, it felt peaceful. The idea of closing it down and doing a kind of an audit of what is all the good that came out of this. The idea when I weighed, like, do I keep going or do I close it down and do something else? Closing it down and doing something else felt really peaceful to me. And it felt like a bit of a sigh of relief. And that's how I knew it was the right decision.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's beautiful. So Yeah, I guess coming back to market demand and really, I mean, you really got to see very clearly that the market wasn't ready for what you were offering. So, and you said already a few times something that we strongly believe in the lab, which is if you have something that the market is willing to pay for, that people are willing to pay for, then you have something that has value, like real value. If people don't pay for it, it's like you don't. So, but then the next question is, okay, how do I find people that are willing to pay for the thing that I have? So, how did you do that? How did you find? I mean, what was the order of things in your company? So, did you find your audience first? Did you come up with the idea first and then found those people? Like, how did you do that? And do you have like a playbook or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that being a server in restaurants gave me a lot of great skills for that. I'm just comfortable talking about it. And so I think I guess the playbook would be to come up with the idea first and just start talking to people about it and say what it is you want to do. You don't necessarily have to say the house for the people who are thinking like, oh, but I don't want to give away my secret sauce or my IP, especially in tech, for example. Absolutely, 100%. But you can talk about what it is that you want to achieve. And you don't need to give all the stuff away about how. But I come up with the idea and then I start talking to people about it and asking people, who do you know? Who do you know that I should be talking to? And that's a really important distinction from do you know anyone? Because do you know anyone is a yes or no question. Who do you know? Oh, I know like Mary and Tom and these people would be really interested. Can you facilitate an introduction? And like I had this conversation with someone over dinner last night who they were saying to me like, oh, you should connect with Air Canada and WestJet for some of the stuff that you're fundraising. And so immediately I'm going, great, do you know anyone there? Can you facilitate an intro? And so I think that is one, and just developing those skills around like having a really articulated pitch. Even for Luminonics, I'm still working in that pitch. It wasn't done by the time I got to Web Summit, but that's okay. I still pulled in some examples, but of some of the things that I want to communicate there. But I think also, even when I go back to EarthPup, like EarthPup is a great example of that. EarthPup, dog treat business using food waste. Okay. For that, what I did was I just made dog treats. Made dog treats in my kitchen. Bought $20 bags on Amazon. I made some stickers that didn't look that great on Canva. Got them printed through Vistaprint. All things cost me $100. And I started marching around pet stores in Toronto. And I just said, hey, this is what I'm working on. What do you think? Got great feedback. So I think that there's always a way. There's always a way to talk, like, and just, you got to get scrappy with it. And looking at, okay, do I go into like Reddit forums? And one more example I'll put there, because Comeback Catalyst is we're super unique. We're helping formerly incarcerated people launch companies. It is very hard to find those people. They're not putting that on their LinkedIn. That is the hardest customer it has been to find for anything that I have done. Restaurants, I can walk into a restaurant. I can go to places where people who know restaurant folks are. That's easy. Pet stores, pet owners, easy. People who used to be in prison, way harder. And for that was born, and like the way that we kind of navigated that in that playbook is I met someone at an event who had successfully launched a business after prison. So I just started talking to her, and then we started with her network, and she became my co-founder. And then after that, we looked at, okay, where is this community frequenting? And so that's where we started building out partnerships with other organizations working with this community. And I'm cold DMing people on LinkedIn. I'm DMing people on LinkedIn. I'm hosting events to invite them to. And then we eventually tested out meta ads. And then one strategy that I loved that I would strongly recommend for everyone here, because this was born out of my own frustration of we're not getting in front of enough people. When we were there, this is when we just launched Comeback Catalyst, and we were opening applications for our first round. And I was like, gosh, we need more applications. And so I had the idea to advertise to other newsletter lists. And I've now tested this out. I've tested this out in both companies now. It's great. I love doing it. And I would strongly recommend it for everyone here. But I went, okay, well, for formerly incarcerated people, they are going to be on the newsletter list of companies that help them get pardons of their criminal record. So I went directly to the companies doing pardons for criminal records. And we developed a partnership with one who had a newsletter list of 40,000 people. And I was like, hey, can I advertise your newsletter list? We're a free program. We'll give great value. Our program is valued at $5,000 per person. And they went, oh, no one's ever offered to do this. And I went, yeah, that makes sense. So I negotiated it, and it went so well that actually our program manager, Brenton, thought we were being cyber attacked because we had so many applications. And it cost me way less than meta ads. And so that's where I think like there's always a way to get scrappy with it, but it's a case of doing the creative, like just thinking creatively. And I've now tested that out in my private coaching as well, where, and like this is kind of wrapping that idea up. I was hosting a retreat because my clients were asking for a retreat. And I was like, okay, fine. We'll do a retreat. It'll be in person. It'll be in Toronto. And I wasn't doing a lot of promotion of my own private coaching on social media just because I've just been building Comeback Catalyst. And all my client base is through referrals right now, which I'm really grateful for. And many of them I've been working with for years now. And I thought, okay, well, let's fill seats for this retreat. And I don't, like, we've got capacity for like 15 people. And so what I did was I thought, okay, newsletter list advertising. I'm going to advertise to newsletter lists of movement studios where I know the types of leaders I want to be working with in Toronto are frequenting. And it was the same thing. And so I did a giveaway, and I said free spot to the retreat. And I did a giveaway to each newsletter list so that the people whose newsletter list it is, they look amazing. Oh my God, we're giving away like value of a $3,000 retreat for free to our community. Great. And people applied, and one person was selected for each like thing. And then everyone else who submitted an application got an exclusive discount and a free coaching session with me. And so it was a great way to also build out pipeline. And I think some of those strategies, for anyone here who has read Alex Hormozy's books, like his books have some great strategies. But I think that there's, and I'm seeing some nods there. Yeah, I think $100 million leads would be a really good one for that. There's always a way to get scrappy, but it's just a case of getting really creative and asking people, even if you have a really great coffee, like who are 2 other amazing people like you I should be talking to, and just getting those conversations in.
Yeah. I love all those strategies. I actually will borrow some. This is beautiful. So, okay. Any questions from the audience? You guys can unmute yourself if you want, or if you want to write it on the chat, that's also fine. Okay, Ryan, let's go.
So going back to the earlier part, so I started a company and I found exactly the same issue, which was simply everybody wanted my service, nobody wanted to pay. Have you found any effective way of using language to determine whether or not someone or a particular idea is pay worthy? Because I actually have a friend in the food waste business as well, and he's running into exactly the same problem. Everybody's like, food waste sounds good, or recycling food waste, but no one's willing to pay.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you got to put the dollar amount right in their face, honestly, because it's for something like that specifically with regards to food waste, because it kind of goes back to what we found when I was sitting on the UN Council, where we're like, hey, sustainability is a nice to have for a lot of people right now. Like, it sounds nice, but it's not the thing that's going to make them take out their checkbook or their credit card. And I think for something like that, where things shifted for us with Terrace is when I was able to do an assessment and calculate the ROI and be like, here's how much money you are wasting, and here's how much money you could make. I honestly, it was so long ago. I did a whole case study for Earth Pub, for juicing production companies. Because it's one thing for me to be like, hey, I want to pay you for your juice pulp. It's a very different thing for me to say, here's how much money you are throwing out and you are spending on throwing it out for your waste haulage, here's how much money you could be making. And like oh man, I wish I could have, it was so long ago. I don't have the like case study still somewhere. I'm sure I could find it. But I remember it was an average of they could be making an additional $50,000 more per year in the food industry, which is such slim profit margins. And so if I said, hey, this is it, the second they're seeing that dollar amount is huge, like that ROI, and being able to effectively calculate that. And I think that in addition to some form of a guarantee, like I do this in my coaching practice, not always, but I do it with some clients, some new clients. I offer a satisfaction guarantee. So for some clients, I'll say, hey, you hate everything I got to say. You're like, Lucy, this is the stupidest thing ever. Shoot me an email. I'll give you a full refund. No problem. And so it reduces the objections that they have. And especially when you're doing something extremely innovative, I mean, for something like food waste, what I would say is you could look at different forms of guarantee, satisfaction guarantee. If you're providing ROI, you can have a form of an ROI guarantee or money back guarantee, because then it reduces I think there's doing the assessment to show them the ROI with the dollar amount. And so you're not selling based off of this feels good for the world. That's still a core part of it, but you're selling based off of the ROI and the problem that you're solving for the customer. And the customer needs to be able to articulate that problem, right? You want to be mirroring that with how you're pitching and selling, and then having all of your objections and how you're going to handle those objections ready to go. Like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is going to be worth my money. And I think prepping for that accordingly, that's going to be what helps ultimately close the deal.
We have another question, but before that, I wanted to ask a follow-up question on that one. You said something interesting, that your customer has to articulate the problem and the solution in the same way that you do. So I guess that requires a lot of work to really come up with the words and the messaging, so that everything is so clear that the customer can say the same thing as you do. So can you unpack a little bit on that?
Sir, can you repeat the last end of that? It just cut out a little bit.
You said that your customer has to articulate the problem and the solution the same as you do, like with the same wording almost, right? How do you get to that point? Because sometimes, we have a pitch, it's beautiful, it's perfect, but our customers don't get it, they don't understand it, or they understand something different, right? So how do you get there?
I think conversations with your customers. I think it also depends on who you're pitching to. Like for Comeback Catalyst, for example, I'm going to pitch slightly differently than I am to the people who fund it, right? My pitch changes a little bit based off of who I'm speaking with, but I think just talking to your customers, that's the best way to go about it. I remember I once audited all of the transcripts of 50 consults that I did for my private coaching. And it was really interesting because I thought my assumption about the key words that my customers are going to have is I'm really stressed and I'm burnt out. And I audited all of them and the keywords that were used and how many times they were used. And I was so wrong. 2 people out of 50 used the word burnt out. A handful of them used the word stressed. Way more of them used the word overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. And that was so interesting to me because I went, oh, the way that people are self-identifying is I am so overwhelmed. Help me not feel overwhelmed. And that's what made me completely rejig. Okay, for like any workshops that I'm doing, I'm going to use the keywords overwhelmed because for that anyways, people self-identify with that. And I think with regards to pitching, for always, we want it to be something like a pitch that grandma would understand, right? Like, especially if you're looking at tech. Like I just came from a pitch event that's happening at Web Summit, and they use a really I don't know about building $3 billion data centers. That is so not my world. But I'm very open to learning about it. And like But the founder that I was seeing the pitch today, we were having dinner last night, and still I'm like, I'm such a newbie to that. I have no idea what they're talking about, and I'm learning, but they're putting it in terms that like grandma would understand, where they're talking about flickering a light switch, and like they were using it to explain the way that Vancouver is using energy in data centers. And I think also if you're pitching for any customer, you want it to be so easy to understand. So then grandma would understand, in addition to if you can mirror the words that they were using. And even if you haven't like had 50 consults yet, it can always just start with, what is the biggest challenge you're having right now? Like starting it with a really open-ended question, depending on the prospect that you were speaking with, or if they booked a consult with you, like what motivated you to book this consult today? Have them tell you. And then have that conversation to start to bring it down to, and if anyone wants to have a conversation about how to structure consults, like let me know. But sometimes you can just simply ask and have a conversation with the prospect about what it is they're struggling with and what they need help with. And if you're in alignment with that.
Yeah. Awesome. Misha, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. With regards to, I guess, the whole, especially for some of us who are just kind of starting out, like you mentioned, as a side hustle and wanting to kind of build that out, monetize it, and just kind of build the visibility, especially with maybe a specific niche customer. How do we kind of incentivize, I guess, and this is where I'm looking at, like you were talking about being creative with marketing, for example, how to incentivize like the different motives around how you can take potential customers and help them expand your network versus you having to kind of aggregate it yourself or rely on AI to do it for you. And then, when it comes down to the actual like job itself, right? Because the thing I'm trying to currently promote, well, two things. One is I'm freelancing as a 3D graphics artist and animator because I worked in that industry. I've been trying to work more in the studio space, but because of all the challenges, I've been trying to also for now pivot as a self-employed. So with that side of things, it's like how I can sustain enough potential customers without too many complications and hoops that I have to jump through with them. And then simultaneously, the other business side hustle I'm trying to build is automotive art because I like to draw cars and I have a huge passion for that. So how do I grow that as well? And for me, of course, it's interesting too, because what I've realized is a lot of my potential customers go to car shows, right? Which is what I've been doing too, right? And with that said, most of the car shows seem to occur like throughout the spring and summer months, right? So it's like I want to also make sure as I do my marketing campaigns in those months, then any months outside of that, I can still have potential customers working with me, right? So that's where it can be a challenge when it comes to those type of things where it seems to be seasonal, but I don't want it to be, adhered to that either, right? And for me, I want to be able to grow that visibility through visual content and media. So it's like, how do you engage enough of that, right? Where it's like, because for me, I'll just quickly say too, is I was thinking about creating more like podcasts or like video type things where we can get more like both virtual and in person, right? So there has to be, I guess, a balancing act between how much of that in-person marketing versus virtual marketing you kind of have to balance on a day-to-day basis while still, going to the gym, working, all those other life tasks,
Yeah, absolutely. So am I understanding this correctly, that the challenge is just how do you have that consistency across different, like outside of the busy seasons?
And especially if I want to collaborate with other friends on the projects, how do I make sure I can both leverage them properly and be accountable to them? Because, people are always busy. Oh, I've got a funeral. Oh, I've got a birthday party, it's just like never ends, right?
Well, yeah, I think those are two different things because, I mean, I think if you're collaborating with a friend who is not showing up, maybe they're not the person to collaborate with. And is there an incentive there for them to show up? Are they getting paid? Is there like a percentage? Is there revenue share? Is there profit share?
Right.
I mean, for me personally, I do work with friends. Like our program manager at Comeback Catalyst, we know each other very well. We knew each other before that, but I knew that they were the person. I was like, I know he's gonna run with this the second we get funding. But I am very careful with who I work with, and if I'm like collaborating with someone on a project who is a friend, if you're slowing me down, sorry, but like I don't think this is a fit, and we can do that in a very nice way that protects the friendship. But I don't want to be working with someone who's slowing me down. And so I think yeah, exactly. Connor's just flying in with these bull nuggets, which I love, but I'm just not going to work with you. I mean, right now and then I'll go back to the in-person thing in a second, but like right now, kind of like he was mentioning, I'm doing lots of different stuff. But I'm writing an EP just for funsies. Because I play music. I'm playing a rock concert on Saturday in Toronto, and because it's fun. And I'm writing music because I want to and we've got a demo that's going to a documentary, actually, that just my client connected me with, and I made the decision to stop working with my music producer. I'm paying you for your time. I am paying you the full rate you gave me. I'm not asking for a friend discount. I am not chasing you for months to book a studio session. Life is too short. So we're going to have a conversation when I see him in a couple weeks. I've been asking him for a session since April. Sorry, not April. Beginning of March. And yeah, so I'm not chasing you. Life's too short. And so cut the dead weight, like Connor said, couldn't agree more. And I think that's an opportunity to reevaluate who you are working with. And are we aligned in what we want to see happen here? And also are we aligned in our working styles? And what are we working towards? So I think there's that piece. And I think also with regards to marketing of navigating online versus in person, you can build a really amazing business only on referrals. And you can also build a really amazing business only with online marketing. And I think it's a bit of finding what is the balance there that works for me with the capacity that I have. Like in a podcast, for example, podcasts can be really great for building legitimacy, doing contact marketing, getting the people you want to be talking to in a room. There's a big difference between saying, hey, do you want to be on my podcast for an hour versus, hey, can I pick your brain for 15 minutes? Some of the people that we want to be connecting with are getting 1 million can I pick your brain messages a day and do not have time for it. Inviting them to be a guest on the podcast is a great opportunity to build a relationship with them. So that is the pure reason I am launching 2 podcasts for each company, is building legitimacy for the organization, having something that I can use in my sales process to be like, hey, I'm doing that with funders right now with Comeback Catalyst. We've got 6 podcast episodes done. They're not even launched. I'm following up with funders being like, hey, listen to Honey's story. She's and it's such an amazing tool. But I'm not expecting the podcast alone to close sales for me. I'm using it as a tool in my own processes and relationship building. So I think, Misha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yep.
Thank you. So I think it's a case of going back and looking at your pipeline and going, okay, if I have, and you're also your customer journey, if I have, let's say 10 hours in a week, what is the stuff that I can do that's going to make money? How many conversations do I need to be in? And looking at also, and I think this is a nice kind of rule of thumb, having a 5-to-1 close ratio in your pipeline. So if I want to close 10 grand, I need to have 50K in my pipeline. How many conversations do I need to be having to get 50K in my pipeline? I need to, let's say I need to have 20 conversations. And then kind of you're reverse engineering it. And then the podcast can be something that's kind of part of the long-term play. I'm using those examples, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'd love to have a more in-depth conversation later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great questions. Matt, you have a question?
Sure. I'll try and keep it quick here. Yeah, and thanks, Lucy. I've learned quite a bit, taken some notes here, which is always good. So I walk away with something really useful. For context, I've been working with Bell, and we started off by going, like, what are you doing and why? And I wanted to go back to one of the things you said at the beginning is your playbook or your blueprint for starting a company. So from your experience, I guess the question would be, from your experience, what are the things that have influenced your blueprint, and what's your blueprint and why? It doesn't need to be super expansive, but just a couple details. If you start another company, what's that blueprint and why?
That is such a good question. I think if I was going to start another company, I was going to break my rule of starting another company in under 5 years, which I think my partner and my sister would be like, oh my God, Lucy. I think what I would do is I would look at what my MVP is going to be to test it. I think, are we all familiar here with the concept of the MVP? I'm seeing some nods. Okay. I think we all are. So yeah, the minimum amount of time and resources to test out an idea. I would create my MVP. The Simon Sinek Golden Circles exercise is a great exercise. I strongly encourage. I'll see if I can find the YouTube video in a second. And there's like, if you just type in Simon Sinek Golden Circles in YouTube, it's like a 5-minute video. I encourage everyone here to do it. So do that, figure out my MVP, minimum viable product, and I would then start telling people in my network, be like, hey, I'm doing this really cool thing. Who do you know I can test it with? And I would create a very compelling offer, whether it's like free dog treats or a free assessment or whatever. I would create a really compelling offer that is just purely to get feedback. And then I would start with my network and say, like, who do you know that I can talk to? And then if, let's say it's dog treats, I'm offering dog treats to like 50 people. I'm getting feedback, I'm iterating, and I would start there. But I think like one thing I would add to that before I even start getting feedback and iterating, I would listen to stories of other people that have done that business model in that industry. And I would really understand, okay, what is it I'm getting into here? Because there's a huge difference between having a tech company versus a CPG company, like consumer packaged goods, versus a coaching business. Those are different plays. And like also the way, like the plays that are needed, and therefore the lifestyle that you have as the founder, which that's not talked about, right? Like being a CPG founder versus a coach, such different lifestyles. So, thank you very much for putting that link in. I would listen to other stories, understand what is the lifestyle and what is the play of this industry. And do I want this for myself? I'll tell you right now, I am never doing a brick and mortar. That's just not for me. I just don't want to do it. That'll drive me nuts. I told my partner who wants to do a restaurant, I was like, that's great. I will support you. I'm not doing it. That's a you thing. And that's totally fine. It's just like different. I just don't want the lifestyle of being tied down to a physical place. It's going to drive me nuts. And I think that that's a really important thing that's also just not talked about very often. Like, is the play and what is needed for this specific type of business what I actually want for myself? So that's what I would actually do first before running into the MVP thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
This is awesome, Lucy. I wish I had the format more like I forgot his name, Joe Regan, like a 3-hour conversation, because there is so much to unpack here. But unfortunately, I made the wrong decision of timing this only 1 hour. But anyway, thank you so much. I learned so much. I took so many notes, and I think others did as well. So again, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And I wish we have a part 2 of this, maybe part 3 as well, because there is so much to unpack again. So anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you also enjoyed it. And thank you guys for joining as well. And yeah, wish to keep in touch, and wish you the best of luck in your companies.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I apologize for mispronouncing your name earlier. But thank you so much for having me. And it's great to connect with you all. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, also, if you ever want to do part 2, part 3, let me know. I'd love to.
Yeah. If you have any content or links that you want to share with the audience, let me know and I will circulate those.
All right. Well,
Yeah. All right. See you guys. Thank you and have a great weekend as well.
Awesome.
Goodbye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks for your time.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.